I was buying female hormones at the nightclub from the same guy I was buying my drugs from. 14, I was a runaway on the streets of Philadelphia. I became a prostitute.
You were biologically a boy. You were a male.
Yes.
Why did you want to become a girl?
This is David Hebner Live.
Why did you want to become a girl, a woman?
Well, David, for the same reason that almost the majority of transgenders and trans anythings, right? Um, because I didn't want to be me. I wanted to escape me, who I was. So for me, my father took his life. I didn't have a positive role model, male role model in my life. And I got to see the women in my life, and they were receiving this form of intimacy, right? This familiarity, this caressing and compassion. And so, because that's what I desired, it could only have been the right decision for me, a child, right? That I was put into the wrong body. Anything to escape being who and what I was, due to
Okay.
a lot of the trauma from as a child.
Okay, David, I want to dive into this little morsel that you just gave me. And you say you didn't want to be you. I get that and understand. There's a lot of times I don't want to be me. Growing up, I wanted to be something else. But are you telling me that this is almost like maybe having a drug addiction, being an alcoholic? You see, a lot of times when we turn to alcohol and drugs, we don't want to be us. We want to drown whoever we are and pretend like we're somebody else, Or, in other words, is this just a mind? I understand it goes into the spirit, but is this a way of thought, a thought process saying I hurt so bad, I don't want to be me, so therefore I'm just going to become a woman, or I could become an alcoholic? Is it the same kind of a thing?
It is. It really is. I know that it is because I was speaking to at a high school last year or the year before,
Yeah.
and I wasn't speaking anywhere last year. So the year before, I was at a high school, and I spoke to a senior class. And right after the class, a young woman came up to me and she says, "Please keep talking about the crossroad," because I talk about that crossroad a lot. When I knew that I could have chosen anything, but I chose to not be me through homosexuality and transgenderism and confusion. And so she told me she was molested as a child, and she remembered the crossroad of when the thoughts went through her mind to either be a lesbian, to try to be a boy, to be promiscuous, to do drugs, to take alcohol, to escape all of these different escape routes, right at this crossroad. And she chose drugs and promiscuity. And she recognized that crossroad, and that's exactly what it is. It is an addiction. So, like, transgenderism is no different than homosexuality. It is homosexuality. It's to the extreme. So I call transgenderism is homosexuality in distress,
Yeah.
because it's the extreme. It is the complete. I don't want to be who and what I am, and so I'm going to conjure up something inside of me, that
Uh,
spirit that's in control of me, and I'm going to conjure something up and be something that I'm not.
I think one of the thoughts, and maybe it's true in certain cases, but and just as an example, a young girl grows up, she's 12, 13, and she starts looking at other girls and she becomes attracted to them. I'm talking physically, sexually attracted to them. So therefore, may want to become a man. Now, is the case most often that someone they're a young kid, whether it's a boy or a girl, and they become lustful, they become sexually attracted to the other sex? Or is it the case that they're so injured through um, through child abuse, through sexual molestation, through abandonment? Which is it mostly? Is it the lust or is it the
No, mostly
English?
it is the most common denominator is the sexual molestation or the sexual abuse, as well as severe physical abuse. Of course, we know
Yeah.
satanic ritual abuse,
Yeah.
all kinds of abuse to
Right.
the extreme. And so it is definitely two of the most common denominators. Okay. So for males, it's their father. For females, it's their mother, but it's a disconnect with their same sex parent and molestation. Those are two
Okay.
of the most common denominators. And I'm talking about on
R-
a such a large spectrum as I could confidently say 95+%.
Okay. Why, going back to that analogy of a girl growing up 13 years old, she's with another girl, she starts becoming attracted to them, probably because she was molested as a child or something, she was injured. But why would she become a lesbian and want to be with a woman, instead of having a sex operation? Let me rephrase that. Why would someone want to have a sex operation, become a man so they can be with a woman, as opposed to just stay a woman and be with a woman and be a lesbian? Can you shed some light on that?
Okay, so for example, I know a transgender that was a born a female, became or lives as a male because she
Hmm.
didn't become a male because she's not male.
Right.
And then I know, and her partner it was born a male and is living as a woman. So they are a male female couple, but complete role reversal. They're each living as the opposite sex, but they're still with the opposite sex. And so I think it's just anything it's perversion, right?
Yeah.
Born into
Eh,
sin, shaped in iniquity. Iniquity at its root means
right.
perversion. So
Yeah.
we're shaped in perversion, but where the perversion of transgenderism comes at and homosexuality, and not to take light of any other addiction, but this is an identity that we put on. So
Hmm.
when we put this identity on, this transgender or homosexual identity, we draw a line in the sand, and there's nothing for us beyond that line. So
Hmm.
I couldn't have possibly been attracted to them women because I was a homosexual. That's not an option for me, you know. And so when you talk about that 13-year-old girl that has an attraction, is it really an attraction at all? Right.
Mm.
So see, that's where we have to start looking. Like I try to make sure I look at things through God's lens, and I
Hmm.
don't think that we have same-sex attraction. I honestly believe that what we have is a part of our character, part of our nature, our design is to desire same-sex intimacy, right? Little boys with
Right.
daddies and little girls with mommies. And when that's broken, they seek that intimacy somewhere else, but we're told by culture and society,
Right.
right, politics, that if we have a draw towards something, then that means we're attracted to that something. And if it is romantic, if it's an attraction, it has to be romantic and or sexual, right?
Right. Right. But you will agree, that there are men who have feminine characteristics. They're more on the effeminate side, and there are women that are more manly. Me being in
Absolutely.
from Yeah, me being from Hollywood and being in the arts and so forth. David, how do you explain that? In other words, they're effeminate men. Women are manly, so they gear toward uh, the same sex, people of the same sex, because they act more like people of the same sex. Is this a design by God? Is this? Yeah.
No, it's not a design by God. If we just look at the word, okay, David, I was ultra feminine. I lived as a woman
Hmm.
for 20 of the 30 plus years that I spent in the LGBTQ plus, infinity and
Yeah.
beyond movement. And it
Uh,
was Jesus the Christ through the word that taught me how to be a man,
mm,
that taught me what masculine was, that it wasn't about taking a leak in the creek and throwing stones and belching and hoorah football army, but
right.
it was representing the Christ in word, deed, and action while being void of feminine characteristics and or mannerisms, right?
Yeah.
Including our appearance.
Yes, yes. Let's talk about, David, you had some surgery done because you were a man, you are a man, and you had surgery done to be more like a woman. What was that surgery?
So I had silicone injected into places in my body. I was on hormones, female hormones at age 14. And I was buying mine black market because back in my day, it wasn't like it is now. You can't just say this is what I think I am and get all the stuff you need. But back then you had to fight for it and press forward for it. And so I did. And I was buying female hormones at the nightclub from the same guy I was buying my drugs from. And 14, I was a runaway on the streets of Philadelphia. You know, I became a prostitute. I learned that I was a commodity, a piece of property. So I became a prostitute, an addict, drugs, alcohol, sex addict. And I was HIV positive also at age 14.
Yeah, and I do want to talk about that. That's gonna be my next segment, but go ahead, finish out.
Okay. And you know, and so here I was 14 and I'm getting silicone injected into my body. I was actually one of the most phenomenal spiritual interventions is what I call it. Is when I went to New York City I was going to get castrated, and I got there and I was hanging out with two transgenders who had already had the sexual reassignment surgery. And I remember us talking, and all of a sudden their smiles went away and they looked at me and they said, "Don't do it." And I said, "Don't do what?" And the one said, "All of my life, I thought if I could just be a woman, I'd find joy and happiness and peace. And I think about now I'm legally and medically a woman. And I think about taking my life every day." And the other one said, "Don't do it. I think about taking my life several times a day, every day."
Wow.
And then poof, we were out of that bubble we were in, and they were smiling again and laughing and joking. And I sat back and I didn't do it, right? I didn't go get castrated because I was going for castration, and then I was going to
Right.
Mexico to get bigger implants, and
Right.
then I was going to get surgery. And so I didn't do any of that because of that one moment.
That was a God moment.
In these last days, there will be perilous times. People will worship false gods, lying signs and wonders. Bibles will be taken out of schools. As the Antichrist arises, Christians will be persecuted. But now, God's people have awakened. David Heavner Investigates is proud to bring you End Times Investigations, a new DVD series containing over 8 hours of interviews, commentaries, and teaching on Illuminati and the New World Order, Satanism, miracles and healings, the Antichrist, and one world religion. David interviews some of the top experts in their field.
Hi, I'm David Heavner, and I'm proud to bring you this brand new DVD collection, End Times Investigations.
David reveals how the media is working hand in hand with the Antichrist system. Order now and receive this special DVD collection. Equip yourself and your family. Text BONUS to 41444 or davidheavner.tv/order. Call toll-free 844-806-0006. Text BONUS to 41444 or davidheavner.tv/order. Call toll-free 844-806-0006.